I will ask them, well, what's your star sign? Of course, but what's your relationship with your dad? Are you the first kid? Are you the last kid? Are you middle? And now that I know this information about you, I can justify in my head that we're actually dating and that's why we're having sex.
Would you think that the Loch Ness Monster had a Virgo moon?
Ooh, I would not be surprised.
Just in hearing about how you date and are in relationships, it kind of connects a bit to the Loch Ness Monster in her lake.
Definitely. But please go check your moon, see what star sign it is, see how that star sign manifests as a moon sign. And I think you can really understand a lot about the way you perceive or experience your relationships. Now, let's talk about the full moon and the new moon and how they affect our daily lives.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, I really felt this full moon. I really feel every full moon and every new moon and like everything in between, both of the moons. But for those who may be a bit more new to this, the new moon and the full moon have very different energetic qualities. Exactly, Itai. The new moon is when you can't see the moon in the sky. So as you were saying, it's quite, under the radar. Like sometimes we feel emotions, but we can't express them. So the new moon is a great time in your life to start something new, to start planning for things, to put new ideas out there, to sow seeds of what you want your month or your year or your life to look like. It's a really dynamic, exciting time.
It's a cleansing experience. It's a chance for us to start fresh, to start a new month and kind of like let go of the things that we didn't want to have, before.
So if you find yourself maniacally cleaning the house or taking your crystals outside to put, under the stars during that time, it's usually a new moon. And that's quite a different energetic experience to the full moon. So 2 weeks later after the new moon, there's a full moon. And that's when you can see the bulbous, beautiful La Luna floating around the sky, and that's when you start to see that people have 3 eyes instead of 2, or people are hanging from the ceilings, and there's a lot going on, and it's not safe to be on public transport anymore. No. So the full moon is when people go cray-cray, people get antsy, they get excited. It represents things coming to fruition, things coming to fullness. Whatever you've planted 2 weeks ago, it's coming into being.
It's illuminated.
Exactly. And it's shedding light on everything and making you aware of everything. So that's a time when things come to a head.
And I think that it is no coincidence that in history the full moon was attached to werewolves and to witches. And I know I talk about Judaism sometimes in this podcast, but most of the high holidays in Judaism will fall on the full moon, which is, yes, it's a time of celebration. And I was trying to understand and look for, stats about it. And there's a lot of misconceptions with actually stats about the full moon, whether there are more people in hospitals during that time. Some people say that in the past, the full moon was the only time that the night was, the night had light. Now we have light, so people can see each other all the time. But before there was electricity, it was the only time that people could actually go out at night and do crazy shit. So some people say it's not about the energy, it's about the fact that there was light and society got used to the fact that once a month there is light and we can do whatever we want. But obviously us as astrology enthusiasts do believe that it has to do with the energy. And yes, I think as someone in line to yoga class before me said yesterday, I'm still winding down from that full moon, and usually I try to break up with my boyfriend, but this time he tried to break up with me, and I felt that.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned that in Judaism, most of the high holy days fall at the full moon. So, I always thought that the fact that when you meet together with your family during a Jewish festival and everyone's crazy and insane and unsettled, I thought that was just because of our cultural heritage and years of genocide and fleeing. But now I realise that,
it's
the evidence suggests, and, if anything, this podcast is more about evidence than anything else.
Yep.
The evidence suggests that it's just the moon, things are being illuminated, and it's no one's fault, and we need to be more forgiving of people.
Yeah.
Generally.
We sure do. Now, it is no secret that we are in the month of Gemini. If you feel a little bit more crazy, if you feel a little bit more like you want to chat.
Love to chat.
They love a good coffee and a chat.
Coffee and a chat.
Let's acknowledge that sign. I think Geminis, they get so much hate. I was tweeting about it. Yeah, I was tweeting about my birthday wish for the Geminis. People were like, oh, finally someone's saying something positive. And I think people kind of like have that image of a Gemini as someone that's a bit flaky and they can talk your head off, But they are ruled by Mercury, which is the planet of communication. So please give them a break. They need to talk to be alive.
Let us talk.
And I want to end with the story that happened to a dear friend of mine that's sitting less than a meter away from me inside my messy room. And that's you, Karen. And this story is it is nothing but a love story between two Geminis. And
which is the equivalent of 4 people, because Geminis are the twins. So that's
four people at least and more.
I'm exhausted.
4 plus.
Hearing this story.
Maybe Geminis were the ones that started polyamory. I would not be surprised.
God.
Anyway, our story begins maybe a year and a half ago or almost 2 years ago.
On a full moon.
On a full moon. And as we're entering Sydney, and we're driving a rental and we're listening to Omer Adam, which is a Israeli Mizrahi pop song artist. And we're listening to his song and we're dancing in the car. And next to us, literally in a van, is Middle Eastern Jesus, which is basically Jesus, but like looking like he supposed to look like. Beautiful curly hair, dark skin, green, full of light eyes. And we had an Etch-a-Sketch in the car. And our dear Gemini Karen, writes a message on that Etch-a-Sketch and shows it at the window to the other Gemini, which was Middle Eastern Jesus. One thing led to another, and these two Geminis that met just like Geminis could.
What did the Etch-a-Sketch say?
The Etch-a-Sketch said,
whilst in travelling traffic.
You are hot. That's what it says. That's what it said. You are hot. And then...
Because they're great communicators, Gemini. They know how to use words well.
And the other Gemini rolled down his window and asked for Karen's number. From there, they hit it off. They went on a date. And 3 weeks later, they went to a secluded... what would you call it? Not island, but a park. A secluded park with no reception. And there they experienced a weekend in which after they never saw each other again except for a run-in at a festival. And I think if that's not a Gemini relationship at its best, two people meeting on the highway, going to a weekend away, and then almost never seeing each other again, that to me is classic Gemini. A beautiful example of Gemini love.
What a beautiful time it was.
Oh, what a beautiful time it was, and maybe still is in your head sometime.
Yeah, well, he did give me a CD which was about experiences with ayahuasca called White Light Healing. So for the first few weeks, I was really into that song, and then I was like, this is not good music. So it's amazing how Geminis really can capture you for a brief heartbeat, and then you get distracted and you move on.
They are beautiful, and I think maybe I give them so many compliments. So when the day come and they do destroy the world, they will remember me as the person that always supported them. So for those of you who want to try and utilize the new moon energy, we want to suggest a practice that you could do it in your very own home. Yeah,
so me and Itai for probably a couple of years now have been doing something known as new moon intentions. So every month when there's a new moon, and as he said, you can do this yourself on your own couch. Choose a place in your home where you feel very spiritual or safe or comfortable. It has to be the same place. Make sure you have the same notebook that you use every time, and sit down as close as possible to the hour of the new moon and write down 10 intentions for the next month. And it's a really cool experience to just put out there into the universe what you're feeling for the month. You'll notice certain patterns. So there's a lot of, I will sleep this month, or I want to be kinder to myself, or I will read a book. And, more often than not, it never happens. but it's a really beautiful practice to do if you've got a spare 10 minutes.
It is. So please try it if you like it. If you have more questions, you can DM us at our Instagram at Astrology Roast.
Not all at once.
Not all in one.
We can't answer them all at the same time. Yeah, and thank you for once again tuning in. As always, it's been our pleasure and hopefully your pleasure as well. We'll see you soon for another episode of Astrology Roast.